The Westbridge Country Club had been the golden stage for my family's lives for as long as I could remember. 18 holes of manicured prestige Olympic pool shimmering under perfect sunlight, and dining rooms where million-dollar deals were whispered over steaks older than I was. My parents practically lived there, and my sister Vanessa wore the place like a crown. I was the outlier, the daughter who didn't fit the one who made them nervous. Vanessa, at 35, was everything they'd hoped for. Elegant, educated, married to a corporate lawyer, and adored by every committee she graced. I, on the other hand, had left Duke University after 2 years, scraped by through ordinary jobs, barista, retail manager, assistant, and wore jeans instead of tailored skirts. My clothes came from Target, not Neiman Marcus. To them, I was the permanent bruise on an otherwise perfect family portrait. That Sunday, I drove an hour to meet them for brunch, unaware I was walking into another family ambush. I'd thrown on jeans, a clean blazer, and flats comfortable, confident me. But as soon as I stepped onto the sunlit terrace, my father's face hardened. "Absolutely not," he barked loud enough for nearby tables to turn. "You are not sitting with us dressed like that." I froze, feeling eyes shift toward me, their daughter, the social scandal in denim. My mother's mimosa hit the table with a sharp clink. "Emma, what are you wearing?" "Clothes," I said simply. "You invited me to brunch." "I invited you," she snapped, "assuming you'd dress appropriately. This is the Westbridge, not a shopping mall." Then Vanessa appeared flawless in a cream dress that probably cost more than my rent. She stopped mid-step, staring at me as though I'd arrived barefoot. "Oh my God, Emma. Are you serious right now?" About what I asked, though I already knew. "This is a members-only club," she hissed. "There's a dress code." My father stood tall and commanding, even in fury. "This is embarrassing," he said to the whole terrace. "My daughter shows up looking like this in jeans and bargain bin clothes. Do you have any idea how this reflects on me?" "Dad, I'm wearing a blazer." "From where, Walmart?" "Actually, yes." My mother's hand flew to her chest like she'd been stabbed. "Emma Catherine Hartley, you will leave this club immediately and return when you're appropriately dressed. Or better yet, don't return at all." People were watching, whispering, smirking, feeding off the drama. I wanted to shrink, to disappear. But I didn't. "You called me Thursday," I said quietly, "and specifically asked me to join you." "I assumed you had the common sense to dress properly," Mom said. "Clearly, I overestimated you." Vanessa stepped closer, her tone dripping with embarrassment. "You're making a scene. Just go home, change, and maybe we can fix this." "I drove an hour to get here," I said. "Then you should have thought about that before leaving the house looking like a homeless person." The air cracked. Even she seemed startled by her own cruelty. Dad gestured sharply. "Leave, before you embarrass this family any further." "I haven't done anything," I whispered. "Your presence is the embarrassment," Mom said coldly. "You're dressed like you clean houses, not dine at a country club." I stood there motionless. 10 years of quiet rejection pressed down on me, every holiday, every dinner, every sideways glance. They'd never asked why I'd dropped out, never cared that I'd built something on my own. Dad turned toward the building. "I'll speak to the manager. Have you escorted out if necessary." He walked off, leaving me standing in the echo of humiliation. I could have left, should have. But instead, I followed him. Inside, the lobby gleamed with marble and chandeliers, a temple of inherited pride. My father was already at the concierge desk, voice sharp. "There's a situation on the terrace," he declared. "My daughter arrived inappropriately dressed, and I need her removed from the premises." The young concierge hesitated. "Sir, if she's your guest." "She's not my guest anymore," he snapped. "I'm revoking that invitation." A moment later, the club's general manager, Patricia Odom, appeared. Professional, calm, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Hartley," she said smoothly, "how can I assist you?" "That," he said, pointing at me. "That is my daughter. She's dressed completely inappropriately. Jeans, cheap clothes, unacceptable. I want her removed." Patricia looked at me, then back at him. You're requesting we escort your daughter off the premises immediately. Yes. I'm on the board. You know how important appearances are here. She nodded once. Of course. Standards are important. Then she reached for her radio. Security to the main lobby, please. And can someone locate Miss Hartley for me? Dad looked smug. Mom and Vanessa hovered behind him like shadows. Thank you, Dad said. It's unfortunate, but standards must be maintained. Absolutely, Patricia replied. Two security officers appeared quiet and professional. My heart pounded, but before I could speak, Patricia disappeared through a side door. The silence was suffocating. Dad checked his Rolex. Mom examined her nails. Vanessa scrolled through her phone like she couldn't wait to tell her friends how her sister had been escorted out. 3 minutes later, Patricia returned, but not alone. Beside her stood a composed woman in an elegant pantsuit, and behind them, my assistant Jordan holding a leather portfolio. Mr. Hartley, the woman said formally, I understand you've requested the owner's intervention regarding a dress code violation. Yes, Dad said briskly. My daughter is dressed inappropriately. The owner can confirm it if necessary. Catherine Brennan, the club's director of operations, smiled faintly. Indeed, the owner is here. She turned to me. Miss Hartley, would you like to address this personally? My father blinked. What? Patricia straightened her jacket and said clearly, Mr. Hartley, allow me to properly introduce Emma Hartley. She's the owner of the West Bridge Country Club. The silence that followed was absolute. For a moment, no one moved. The words hung in the air like thunder that refused to fade. My father's jaw worked soundlessly, his face cycling through disbelief, confusion, and dawning humiliation. My mother's hand froze around her clutch, and Vanessa's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering against the marble floor. What Dad finally managed. Catherine Brennan's voice was calm and professional, each word slicing cleanly through the stunned silence. Your daughter Emma Hartley owns this property. She purchased the West Bridge Country Club 8 months ago through Hartley Hospitality Group. Dad stared at me as if I'd just started speaking another language. That's impossible. Emma, you work retail. I worked retail 7 years ago, I said evenly. Now I run a hospitality management company. I've spent the last decade acquiring and restoring underperforming properties. Jordan stepped forward, opening the leather portfolio and revealing a stack of documents. Here's proof of ownership. Miss Hartley acquired the property for $14.7 million and invested an additional $8.2 million in renovations. Every update to the club, from the tennis courts to the new dining wing, was her decision and her funding. My father's fingers trembled as he scanned the papers. He looked up, his voice cracking. You bought this place? Yes, I said quietly. I've owned it for 8 months. I just hadn't told you. Vanessa's face drained of color. You own 14 properties, Jordan added smoothly. 15 now, actually. We closed on a boutique hotel in Asheville yesterday morning. My mother swayed slightly, her voice no more than a whisper. But why didn't you tell us? I met her gaze. When exactly would I have told you? At Christmas, when Dad spent the entire dinner listing Vanessa's achievements? Or at Easter, when you introduced me as our other daughter? You never asked what I was doing. You didn't want to know. That's not fair, Mom protested, but her voice faltered. Isn't it? I said. You never saw me as someone capable of success because I didn't fit your version of it. Patricia shifted slightly, keeping the tone professional but firm. Miss Hartley, would you like to address your father's request now? I nodded once. Yes. Catherine, can you bring up the Hartley family membership record, please? Catherine tapped her tablet. Richard and Margaret Hartley, primary members since 1998. Vanessa Hartley Preston, associate member since 2015. And their annual dues, I asked. $45,000 for primary membership, $12,000 for associate. Dad's voice was hoarse. Emma, don't. And the terms for termination, I interrupted. Catherine read from the tablet. Clause 7.3. Membership may be terminated for conduct unbecoming harassment of staff or members, or behavior detrimental to the club's reputation. Ownership reserves the right to determine what qualifies. Thank you, I said, still calm. My father's composure was unraveling. Emma, you wouldn't. You tried to have me thrown out of my own property, I said softly. You called me an embarrassment. You said my presence reflected poorly on this family. Tell me, Dad, does that behavior uphold the club's values? Mom stepped forward, her face pale. Emma, please. You're upset and you have every right to be. But don't do something you'll regret. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, okay? We didn't know. We shouldn't have said those things. Please just... I looked at her. You called me a homeless person in front of half the terrace, Vanessa. Her lip trembled. I didn't mean it. Catherine cleared her throat gently, the sound echoing in the marble hall. Miss Hartley, what are your instructions regarding the memberships? I looked at my family, 3 people who had spent my entire life making me feel small, and felt the ache of 1,000 unspoken memories. Every slight, every moment of being dismissed, of being the other daughter. Effective immediately, I said quietly, Richard and Margaret Hartley's primary membership and Vanessa Preston's associate membership are suspended for 30 days pending review. Emma, Mom gasped. During that time, I continued, I suggest you think carefully about how you treat people, especially those you claim to love. If after that you still believe reputation matters more than respect, then your memberships can remain revoked permanently. Dad took a shaky step toward me. Emma, you can't do this. I've been on the board for 12 years. I'm up for president next quarter. Then maybe you should have treated the owner with a bit more courtesy, I said. The tension in the lobby was thick enough to choke on. A small crowd had gathered, members, staff, onlookers, pretending to scroll through their phones while watching everything. Catherine spoke softly. Miss Hartley, do you want security to escort them out? My father looked like someone who had just lost everything. Emma, he whispered, please. This club is our life, our friends, our world. Then maybe I said you should have remembered that I'm your daughter before your reputation. I nodded toward Patricia. Please escort them out. They are suspended members and not authorized to remain on the property. Security stepped forward. My father's face went white. My mother clutched her purse like it was a lifeline. Vanessa sobbed quietly as the guards guided them toward the exit. As the doors closed behind them, the hush that followed was deafening. Only the distant murmur of the fountain broke the silence. Patricia approached carefully. Miss Hartley, that was bold. I managed a tired smile. Too bold. She almost smiled back. Let's just say the members will be discussing this for years. I let out a shaky breath. Good. Maybe they'll finally remember my name. I didn't stay for brunch. My appetite had evaporated somewhere between humiliation and revelation. Instead, I walked out of the gleaming lobby, the marble floors echoing beneath my flats, and sat in my car for nearly 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel as if it were the only thing keeping me anchored. My hands were still trembling. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a strange emptiness, half victory, half ache. My phone buzzed relentlessly in the cup holder. Vanessa's name flashed first. Emma, please. Let's talk. Please don't do this to us. Then Mom. Your father is beside himself. You can't mean it. Then Dad. I'm calling the family lawyer. You can't abuse your position like this. I turned the phone off. For once, I didn't owe them a response. Jordan appeared a few minutes later, tapping gently on the car window. You okay? He asked as I rolled it down. His expression was somewhere between concern and admiration. I don't know, I admitted. That was a lot. That was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen in a professional setting, he said honestly. And I once watched a CEO fire his entire board during a Christmas party. I huffed a short, exhausted laugh. So I'm in good company then? He studied me for a moment. Was it worth it? I thought about the years of condescension, the way every family dinner had felt like a quiet performance of disappointment. It was honest, I said finally. Maybe too honest. Jordan hesitated, then said, They're going to fight this, you know. Your father's not wrong about bylaws. There are formal procedures for suspending members, especially board members. They'll challenge it, I know. And when this gets out, and it will, you'll be the story. Vindictive owner bans her family from country club. That's the headline. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. Then I'll make sure the facts speak louder. He nodded. All right. I'll schedule a meeting with the legal team first thing tomorrow morning. Good. And Jordan, pull every record we have on dress code enforcement for the last 5 years. I want to see if my father's ever used that policy to target people he didn't like. His brows lifted slightly. You think there's a pattern? I think I said my father spent years deciding who belongs here. It's time someone checked whether those decisions were fair. He nodded again, respectful, but his eyes were thoughtful. Understood. I'll have a report ready tomorrow afternoon. That night, I didn't go to the small apartment my family assumed I still rented. Instead, I drove home to the renovated Victorian house I'd bought 3 years ago in a quiet, historic neighborhood. It was 4 bedrooms, hardwood floors, wide front porch, and a garden that was always slightly overgrown because I never had time to tend it. Inside, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in the living room surrounded by framed family photos I hadn't been able to throw away. There we all were, smiling at Christmas dinners, vacations in the Bahamas, graduation parties. Perfect moments frozen on film, so different from the reality I'd lived. The silence in the house felt too big, too still. For the first time in years, I wondered if I'd gone too far. Was I wrong? The question followed me through the evening, through dinner I didn't finish, through the hours I spent staring at the ceiling, replaying every word I'd said that morning. My family had humiliated me publicly, but I had humiliated them back. Maybe that wasn't justice, just a different kind of cruelty. By morning, my phone was full of missed calls and unread messages. 17 voicemails to be exact. I brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen island, and listened to them in order. Mom's voice came first, trembling. Emma? Your father's blood pressure spiked last night. The doctor says he's okay, but the stress? This is what you've done to him. Then, Vanessa. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've been asked to step down from the charity board because of the publicity. My husband's furious. You've ruined everything. Dad's voice was next, sharp, indignant, still clinging to control. I've spoken with Harold Wellington, the senior board member. He says what you did violates multiple bylaws. We're filing a formal complaint. This isn't over. I let the phone drop onto the counter. My coffee had gone cold. By 9:00 a.m., I was sitting in my office across from 3 lawyers, Sarah Chin, my lead counsel, and 2 specialists in corporate and property law. They were efficient, pragmatic, and unfazed by drama. Tell me the truth, I said. Did I overstep? Sarah flipped through the file. Technically, no. As owner, you have full discretion over membership decisions, including suspension or termination. Your father's behavior could easily be categorized as conduct unbecoming. But I prompted. She looked up. But you bypassed internal review. The bylaws require a formal hearing before suspending board members. So yes, you acted within your rights, but you ignored procedure. That gives them grounds to challenge you. I sighed, pressing my palms to my temples. Options. Marcus, the governance specialist, leaned forward. Option 1, stand your ground. Fight every complaint and you'll probably win, but it'll drag on for months. Publicly, it'll look personal, vindictive even. Option 2, reinstate their memberships under specific conditions. Make them issue a formal apology, participate in reviewing the dress code policies, maybe even a public statement about respect and inclusion. It preserves your authority and keeps you looking measured. Sarah added, Option 3, sell the club. You've already doubled its valuation since acquisition. You could walk away clean with profit and peace. I stared at the table for a long moment. No, I'm not selling. I bought Westbridge because it deserved better leadership and because somewhere deep down I needed to prove I could build something lasting. Sarah nodded. Then go with option 2. Extend grace they didn't offer you. That'll make you look like a leader instead of a grudge holder. I sat back, exhaling slowly. Grace, I repeated. The word felt heavier than it sounded. That afternoon I called my father. The phone rang only once before he answered. His tone was wary, quieter than I'd expected. Emma. Dad, I said evenly. I've reviewed the situation with my legal team. I'm prepared to reinstate the family memberships under specific conditions. There was a long pause. What kind of conditions? First, I said, a written apology from each of you, not for me personally, but for the record. An acknowledgement that attempting to have someone removed based on appearance is inappropriate and violates the club's values. Silence. Then stiffly. And the second. You'll participate in the upcoming board review of the club's dress code policies. The goal is consistency, no more selective enforcement, no more using it as a weapon to judge people. He exhaled audibly. Fair enough. And the third. You'll respect my ownership, I said. No more undermining me in front of staff or using your board position to push your own agenda. If you disagree with the direction I'm taking the club, you can resign. But you won't sabotage my work. For a moment I heard nothing but the faint hum of his office in the background. Then his voice came back subdued. You've really built something, haven't you? Yes, I said softly. I didn't know he admitted. I should have asked instead of assuming. Should have paid attention to what you were doing instead of deciding you'd failed. I didn't say anything. It was strange hearing humility from the man who had once defined success like a sermon: Ivy degrees, country clubs, and spotless reputations. He continued. Your mother and I were proud of Vanessa because her accomplishments were visible. Her charity work, her husband's career, the society pages, it was easy to understand. You, on the other hand, you worked quietly. We didn't realize success could look different. It's not about being visible, I said. It's about doing something that matters to you. I didn't build my company to prove anything to you or Mom. I did it because I love creating places where people belong, even people in jeans. I heard a faint, genuine chuckle. That's fair. He paused, then said, I'm sorry, Emma. Truly. What we did was cruel, no matter who you are or what you own. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. I'll send the formal apology letters to Catherine Brennan by the end of the week, I said. Once she receives them, I'll lift the suspension. He hesitated. And the dress code review? Next month, I expect you to attend. Understood, he said. Then quietly, thank you for calling. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long while, realizing how strange it felt to be the one holding the power. All those years of being spoken over, diminished, silenced, and now he had to listen. That night, for the first time in days, I slept well. The following Sunday, I returned to the Westbridge Country Club. I wore the same outfit as before, dark jeans, a soft gray blazer, comfortable flats. Not because I wanted to prove a point, but because I finally didn't have to. The terrace was busy again, sunlight glinting off the glasses and the silverware. My parents were already seated at their usual table. When they saw me approach, both of them stood. Emma, Mom said, her voice careful, controlled. Would you like to join us? I would, I said simply. They'd saved me the seat with the best view, the one overlooking the golf course. It used to be Vanessa's spot. I noticed that she too was there, her eyes red but smiling faintly. We ordered food. The small talk was hesitant at first, safe topics like weather renovations, local charity events. It felt awkward, but for once, it wasn't cruel. Vanessa was the first to bridge the silence. I read about your hotel in Asheville, she said, her voice tentative. It's getting incredible reviews. Thank you. And the property in Savannah, the one you're renovating, it looks beautiful. I saw the photos online. I raised an eyebrow. You've been researching my company. She flushed slightly. I wanted to understand what you've built. It's really impressive. I caught a small smile tugging at my lips. That means a lot, Vanessa. Dad added, I've been telling my colleagues about your work. The way you identify underperforming properties and turn them around, it's brilliant. You have an eye for opportunity. I blinked, unsure how to process genuine praise from him. Thank you, I said quietly. Mom reached across the table, placing her hand gently over mine. I read our apology letters again before sending them, she said. Every word I meant it. We were wrong. About all of it. Her eyes shimmered slightly, but her tone was steady. Dad nodded. We can't undo what happened, but we can start over. We'd like to try to actually know you, Emma, not the version we assumed existed. I looked at my family, these flawed people who had spent years measuring love in status and reputation. For the first time, I saw not the power they'd held over me, but the humanity beneath their pride. Okay, I said, let's try. The brunch was simple, even pleasant. No explosions, no whispers from other tables. When other members passed, they smiled politely, some even nodded. Word had spread clearly, but no one dared say anything now. And when I leaned back in my chair, looking out over the golf course, the sunlight warm on my face, I realized something that had taken me a decade to learn. I didn't need their approval anymore. For years, I'd mistaken acceptance for love and achievement for worth. But standing my ground had shown me that sometimes respect begins the moment you stop asking for it. As we finished our meal, Dad raised his glass slightly. To family, he said. I smiled. To growth. We clinked glasses. For once, it didn't feel like a performance. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, just a quiet, honest beginning. And maybe that was better. When I left the club that afternoon, I walked past the polished plaques and photographs of founding members, men who'd built this place as a symbol of exclusivity. I couldn't help smiling. Now it was mine, and it stood for something different. And when the next person walked in wearing jeans and a hopeful smile, they'd be welcomed, not judged. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't humiliation or power. It's changing the rules so that no one else has to live by the ones that broke you. If this story moved, you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of what really matters. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in Emma's place?